Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Welcome to the 15 Before. We are live. We're here. We're excited to be with you and ready to go. How are you, Scott?
Ready to go. Well, you know, we got our gremlins working this morning, so I'm a little bit nervous about getting all this, but
I know, but somehow it all pulls together, and we're able to make it happen. And I sound good. We sound good with music, and we're here. We're ready to rock and roll. I hope that you've had a good Sunday morning and a good week so far. If you have, please let us know that you've had a good week. Comment in the chat and let us know. We had some people commenting last service. Patty said she overslept, but she's here. She started commenting at 9:50 or so. So okay. Maybe she'll come back for the next one. Maybe she'll be here in this next one. We are live. I'm gonna share. Let's share. We got people watching the auditorium, but nobody's live in the service right now.
Service. You want us to hit like and share? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So let's go in here, and we're gonna do that right now. If you're in the auditorium, thanks for coming on in, being early, being ready to go. We're gonna click Forest Park Church, and we're gonna click. We're gonna mute this so that I don't echo double time. And then we're gonna click the share button, and that's it. It's that easy. Share. And that way, hopefully, we can get some people. We got a couple people tuning in, and we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to talk with you. So comment in the chat. Let us know that you're here. If you're in the auditorium, pull it up on your phone so that you can comment in the chat and let us know.
Okay.
And we're here in the live stream booth. This is where all the action happens, where we make it all happen. We got a video switcher. We got an audio computer. We got other computers. And Mel is here with us too. We're excited to have her on camera 5.
Yep.
And yeah, it's been a great day. Oh, and we got to start a recording. Can't forget to start a recording.
We got a recording with everything else going on. We forgot to hit the.
We always got something, Scott.
Right? I know.
We always
it just throws us off. We're doing good though. We got it.
But it's been a good day. It's been really good.
It has to
have our worship team. They're doing amazing and then Preston's bringing the message today. Heroes and Villains.
Good message today.
Yeah, it is. It's a cool service, or a cool series to be in, I should say, because I always love to hear specific stories of specific people and kind of their lives. And Preston's talking about Judas, and it's a really cool way to look at the Bible. And so, great to have you here, and let us know that you're here. We'd love to talk with you. And we're going to go on to the question of the day.
Question of the day. Did it work this time?
It worked.
Hey, we got our clicker back.
We got it working.
We got this.
The question of the day is, do you wait until the oven is preheated? And we talked about this in the first service, but you were. I feel like I was alone in here.
You are. I'm still standing pretty firm where I was.
Okay, okay, and Mel's on camera 5. She says, me too. So they both are on the team of waiting.
Yes, you wait.
And I'm on the team of you just go for it. I mean, you just let it, put that frozen pizza in, and you don't care, because it's gonna get warm.
It's not perfect.
It's not perfect. But what is it really, what are we losing?
Perfect.
On a frozen pizza, probably not much, but I don't know. I think a cake or something that's more reliable on that heat. I don't know. To me,
I like French fries. I'm just putting those in. Frozen French fries, I'm putting them in.
Yeah, anything frozen that was practically pre-cooked, Yeah.
Well, if you are a strict waiter, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you if there's anything. I mean, I just feel like most of the time, except for baking. The baking is the one thing I understand. Yeah. You gotta wait. Because there is something to do with how it heats up. When you boil potatoes, you're supposed to put the potatoes in the water, then start the heat.
Right.
So that they heat up at the same time.
Right.
But the science behind frozen pizza is they've got it covered.
Right.
And we don't need to worry about that, because we're just.
I don't know. I can see your argument to a certain extent. I got a Kentucky grandma, and bless her soul. I wish she was online where I could wave at her. But She was one of those types that they would make biscuits and gravy, and she'd make it in an old cast iron skillet, and you could just see her throw stuff in there.
She just knew what she was doing.
And she just knew what she was doing. And you go over to her and say, I need that recipe. And she's all like, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And you've got, biscuits.
That's how I am.
That come out looking like Pillsbury, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just...
Now, I will say, I don't know that mine would ever come out looking like Pillsbury, but I just like going for it, I fly by the seat of my pants. And Ashlyn gave a face palm. She does not agree. My wife is in the chat. She does not agree with my... She likes to wait. She likes to wait, and that's fine. We all are entitled to our opinions. I'm just
right there with you, Ashley.
I'm just gonna put it.
Fight the fight. We'll get him trained. We will get him trained to follow directions.
After this many years, I don't know. She's not. Maybe she's just given up.
Right, maybe.
But yeah, let us know if you have any opinions on that. We're gonna just talk about what's happening at Forest Park because it's a fun time to be at Forest Park. We just had our Easter services. If you're coming in, you're in the auditorium. You're relatively new. We're happy to have you, and we're also just having a great day. We've got worship coming up, the message coming up, and then a couple of events I want to say. Next night is tonight. That's for our students, 6th to 12th grade. So if you're a student or you have a student, 6th to 12th graders will come out 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock tonight, and they'll have their next night, which is a lot of fun for them. And then on the
also, 21st, I believe they're having another one on the 21st.
Yes, the 7th and the 21st. So they meet twice a month. And so if you're looking for your students to get plugged in, that's the time to do it. And also teasing a little bit of VBS, June 10th. A little bit. June 10th to the 14th is the week of VBS. We should have that graphic done by this week. I'm just finalizing the t-shirts so that we can have the t-shirts ready for pre-order, ready to go. And if you are interested in helping us for VBS, we will have first of all, we'll have our supplies coming out soon. We'll have all the stuff on the window so you can help fund the supply portion of it with all the snacks and the crafts and all that stuff. But also, we really would love for you to volunteer. You don't have to be a trained Bible scholar or anything like that. Just being a crew leader or involved in any sort of way with helping for VBS would be amazing. I know it's one of our biggest events we do in the year.
Yeah. Give your time.
Yeah, it's 1 week and it's just
so much to the kids.
A couple of hours at nighttime that you're a crew leader. And a crew leader just means you're shepherding these kids from station to station, and you're able to be a huge part of making that week special. And just dancing and singing and all that stuff with them is a huge deal for them. So I know Elliot's gonna love VBS this year, my son, and we're excited to have that. So we're starting early. We're getting the word out early. June is gonna come fast. So make sure that you are registered. The link will be out very soon. We'll have it this Sunday, this coming Sunday. Right. So
is it a secret still, or we got the theme out?
No, I'll do what I did last Sunday. Or last service, I should say. I'm gonna kind of give a little sneak preview. We're going for underwater this year. Where's Allison?
Underwater.
I sent her the graphic, and I want to make sure I show it to everybody because it's really cool. It's gonna be really fun. That's the graphic
look
there.
at that, yeah.
So let's see if we can get that on there.
Got the light reflection.
There we go.
Underwater.
Scuba VBS. If I was more prepared, I'd have that on. But
so we went from space last year to underwater this year.
Yeah, we're going all the way down to scuba. So again, we'll share that. I didn't want to share it just yet because the t-shirts are not fully ready yet. So once that's ready, everything will be ready to go. You'll be able to register. You'll be able to buy your shirt. It'll already come in on time. And it'll be a fun time. So VBS coming up. We're excited. And now we're going to play and talk a little bit before we got to go to worship.
There you go.
6 minutes left. I always take a minute off, and we're doing Would You Rather.
Would You Rather,
a classic game where we only really talked about a couple of them in the last service.
Yeah,
we don't have as much time as we do now, which is exciting because we can go back through some of these.
Well, our discussions could get long, especially when it's an if or.
Yeah, I mean, you got some interesting things. So let me pull these back up. Here we go. These are just simply, would you rather this or this? That's all this is. And we'd love for you to join the conversation because some of the opinions we have maybe are not the best opinions, and maybe you have a better opinion. And feel free. Put it in the chat. Facebook, YouTube. Let us know. Mel is behind the camera, and she's got some strong opinions, too.
Yeah,
she knows what she's talking about. When she feels something, she's going to say it. So
gonna say it out loud.
here we go. Would you rather be 7 feet tall or 3 feet tall? So we're going back to, I guess Elliot, my son, is 4. I think he's about 3 feet tall. Maybe a little bit tall. He's tall for his age.
Right.
Or 7 feet tall.
I don't know.
I'm in the middle.
You're in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you're in the middle like right now?
No, not
Okay,
not
you're in the
now.
middle like you
In the
can't
middle,
decide.
yeah.
Okay.
I know it's hard for me to decide too because
There's
I've.
an advantage.
As
Yeah.
a guy, I'm kind of on the short side. I'm only 5'6",
Okay.
but my mom was only 5 foot tall. So the good thing about being short is we don't have to duck through doorways. Being a 7 foot tall guy, most doorways
Yeah.
are like 6'8".
Yeah.
You know, so you have to duck when you go through those
Yeah.
things. The world is not really made for tall guys.
Aaron says 7 feet tall. Aaron, what is your rationale behind that? Are you feeling basketball is coming into play here? Or you want to be? I mean, that's a factor. You could
Right.
7
You could
feet
be-
tall. It puts you into a category.
Just because you're 7 feet tall doesn't mean that you have the control of your muscles like
That's
those
fair.
athletes do.
That's
so
fair.
yeah.
I think 3 feet tall.
You have that advantage.
I don't know. That's almost too short though, because then nothing else is made for you either.
Yeah.
You're like picking two extremes.
You've got attention on you no matter what.
Right.
You know, if you're 7 feet tall,
Exactly.
anywhere you go, people are looking at you. But 3 feet tall, it's the same thing. It's you've got attention on you no matter what, just for your drastic. Aaron says sports, and someone has to reach everything off the top shelf for Scott.
Oh,
I can
I'm
climb.
gonna take the short guy. I see that. I see that.
No, you can climb.
Shots fired.
I have
You
a
said climb?
I
Oh,
always climb. in
Mel is
Tuesday.
saying, yeah, she's saying you can climb. She
But
works.
the tall guy, he cannot climb that, you know.
That's true.
Well,
That's true.
we have a step stool at my house. Thank you very much, Aaron. I can fend for myself.
Yeah. Okay.
An advantage and disadvantage, you know.
Yeah. Would you rather have a pocket that gave you $100 every time you reached into it, or shoes that let you walk on water? This is interesting.
Shoes that let me walk on water.
Money.
I mean,
Money. I could buy I could buy the shoes if I had $100 every time I reached in my pocket.
well, these are coming out of thin air.
I don't know.
so
That's
I
right.
think- okay, so $100 every time you reach into it. That's infinite money.
That's infinite money.
Infinite
It's
money is I mean, it doesn't say any caveat there. There's no. So I don't know.
I changed my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Aaron-
interesting because
Aaron says pocket for sure. Yeah.
pocket
Yeah,
for
money.
sure.
He's saying-
I think. I can't think of any. Leave the water walking to Jesus, Aaron said. That's true.
Right.
That's
There
true.
Okay, I'll change my mind.
I mean, infinite money is like,
Yeah.
you know, you can't really pass that up. All right, let's go to another one. Would you rather have a magical pencil that made anything you drew real? Again, infinite money. I'm thinking that right away. It's the first thing I think. Or a magical eraser that could make anything disappear.
Ooh.
Why can't the eraser?
That-
Why can't the
I
eraser
choose
be?
eraser.
She picks the eraser. Why can't the eraser be on the pencil?
That's what I was. That's exactly. Wouldn't that same pencil be together? How's that?
Yeah, I guess it's just one of those pink erasers. You know, for me, Aaron says pencil. I probably would say pencil again. That's infinite money,
I'll
but
say erasers.
you know,
I don't know. I've done a lot of stupid things in my life. So
Yeah.
I think eraser could be.
Eraser.
It could be. Yeah, it could be helpful.
so
too.
if you erase a date on the calendar, it never happened.
Yeah, but what does it? Now we're talking about. So this is where these questions lead down rabbit holes because now we got the butterfly effect. If you erase something,
Right.
what happens? What happens down the road?
You won't be here.
Can you
Yeah,
can
what-
you
it
erase
changes.
can you erase the time? We want to go back in time. We erase it, and then the time goes backwards.
Maybe.
That's
I don't
time
know.
travel. I mean,
That's yeah.
you got something there. All right, let's see if we can get one more in here. Would you rather have a nose that keeps growing like Pinocchio's, or have your belly button be a magnet? These are very odd.
Belly button.
Belly button being a magnet
I
does
don't-
not.
My belly button doesn't need to be a magnet. It already collects enough lint. What are you
No,
talking
I've already
about?
got a big nose. I need to go for a bigger one.
The big
For
nose.
a nose.
I guess I would say belly button. It's a little bit more subtle.
Because you can just pull
Right.
this stuff off, you know?
Yeah.
It attracts, just throw it on.
Yeah, that's fair.
Hold the pants up.
Well, that's true too. We got 10 seconds
We got
left.
10 seconds.
Thank you for being
Right.
here. We're going to worship. I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you in a
And a
couple
great week.
seconds.
Bye-bye.
That's harder.
Well, good morning, Forest Park. So glad to see you guys. Go ahead and stand to your feet. We're going to worship together this morning, as we usually do. We're going to sing about the joy that we have in the house of the Lord this morning. Go ahead and put those hands together. All right, let's sing this out. We worship the God who was. We worship the God who is. We worship the God who evermore will be. He opened the prison doors. He parted the raging sea. My God still holds the victory. Yeah. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. No, we shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. No, we shout out your praise. Oh, oh, oh. We shout out your praise. Sing it out, we sing. We sing to the God who heals. We sing to the God who saves. We sing to the God who always makes a way. 'Cause he hung up on that cross, then he rose up from that grave. And my God is still rolling stones away. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. No, we shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. No, we shout out your praise. Come on, put his hands together. And we were the beggars, and now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, and now we're running free. We got forgiven, accepted, redeemed by his grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. Come on, sing it out. 'Cause we were the beggars, and now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, and now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by his grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. No, we shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. No, we shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. No, we shout out your praise. this morning, church? I see some people looking at me like, oh, I don't know if we're too joyful. Well, we're going to continue to worship together as we always do. And we just want these songs to be a prayer and an anthem for our lives. That God will set a fire in our heart that won't die down, that won't allow us to grow cold, and it will burn for Him and burn for Him alone. So let's continue to sing together. Set me ablaze to the soul that I know. Set me ablaze, so I'll never grow cold. Set me ablaze to the soul that I know. Set me ablaze, so I'll never grow cold. Breathe, come and breathe on the coals of my heart and let your fire start. Breathe, come and breathe on the coals of my heart and keep me burning. Breathe, come and breathe on the coals of my heart and let your fire start. Breathe, come and breathe on the coals of my heart. Set me ablaze with a single obsession. Set me ablaze with an endless passion. Oh, set me ablaze with a single obsession. Set me ablaze with an endless passion. Breathe, come and breathe on the coals of my heart and let your fire start. Breathe, come and breathe on the coals of my heart and keep me burning. Breathe, come and breathe on the coals of my heart and let your fire start. Breathe, come and breathe on the coals of my heart. Oh, breathe, come and breathe on the coals of my heart and let your fire start. Breathe, come and breathe on the coals of my heart and keep me burning. Breathe, come and breathe on the coals of my heart and let your fire start. Breathe, come and breathe on the coals of my heart. Wildfire, burn brighter deep inside my heart. Consume me, rage through me, I want all you are. Wildfire, burn brighter deep inside my heart. Consume me, rage through me, I want all you are. Yes, I want all you Set me ablaze to the soul that I know. Come on, church, sing it out. Set me ablaze, so I'll never grow cold. Set me ablaze to the soul that I know. Set me ablaze, so I'll never grow cold. Set me ablaze to the soul that I know. Set me ablaze, so I'll never grow cold. Set me ablaze to the soul that I know. Set me ablaze, so I'll never grow cold. Breathe, come and breathe on the coals of my heart and let your fire start. Breathe, come and breathe on the coals of my heart and keep me burning. Breathe, come and breathe on the coals of my heart and let your fire start. Breathe, come and breathe on the Lift up my head in every valley. Let your joy be greater than my grief. Let's sing this out together, church. I have set my heart on you. You have every part of me. I set my heart on you. You make a way when none is found. You tell the roaring ocean to run. I believe you're moving even now, right here, right now. I have set my heart on you. You have every part of me. I set my heart on you. I have set my heart on you. You have every part of me. I set my heart on you. You set my heart on you. You. Nothing will ever break me, ever slay me. All my hope in you, and nothing will ever shake me, overtake me. All my hope in you, and nothing will ever break me, ever slay me. All my hope in you, and nothing will ever shake me, overtake me. All my hope in you. I have set my heart on you. You have every part of me. I set my heart on you. I have set my heart on you. You have every part of me. I set my heart on you. You set my heart on you. You set my heart on you. Set our hearts on Sing that chorus one more time. I have set my heart on you. You have every part of me. I set my heart on you. I have set my heart on you. You have every part of me. I set my heart on you. God, we come to you now. God, just thanking you for who you are. Thanking you for the joy in our lives that you give us. And thanking you for your love and your acceptance and your grace. God, we are so lucky that we are able to come to a place to worship your name and to give you the praise and the honor that you deserve. God, my prayer for for us this morning is that we will truly believe the words that we just sang. That you have every part of us, not just our time on a Sunday morning, not just our home life, our jobs, but you have every part of us in our hearts. But God, my prayer for us is that we will truly be able to set our hearts fully on you so that we have the hope placed in you. So nothing can break us or shake us because of you and what you've done for us. Can we sing that chorus one more time? I have set my heart, set my heart on you. You have every part of me. Set my heart on you. I have set my heart, set my heart on you. You have every part of me. Set my heart on you. God, thank you for this time you've given us. It's in your name I pray. Amen. Guys, thanks for worshiping with us. You may have a seat.
Amen. Amen. Can we give it up for the band while you have a seat? They did really, really great. Yeah. Thank you guys so much, and thank you for being here. My name is Josh, and I am the communications pastor here. Excited to be here with you and celebrate what a great week and a great Easter Sunday we had last week with just lots of new faces, returning faces. And I was telling our team as we have a big huddle for the volunteers before services start that Easter Sunday is great because lots of new people come, and you might be one of those new people, but also everyone who's our regulars, the people who regularly come to Forest Park are able to come as well. And so it's kind of one big family of people inviting others, and it's just a great day. So I just wanted to celebrate what happened on Easter Sunday last week, and also celebrate that we had our Easter offering. And I talked with Lisa, and she said we, above and beyond our regular giving, right? We had a regular giving that happens every single Sunday. It's what supports Forest Park weekly and monthly. And then on top of that, we had over $8,000 given for the Easter offering. So we can clap for that because that's huge. It's really huge. It's above and beyond what people normally give. And I know it's not easy to give at a time right now that inflation's really high, everything's really high. It's a sacrifice to give and to support a nonprofit, a local church. And we're just so grateful for your giving. We're grateful that you choose to invest in what's happening at Forest Park. And so from the bottom of my heart, thank you for choosing to give to the Easter offering, and then also giving this morning. We're grateful that you choose to give consistently and make sure that we're able to do everything that we're able to do regularly, as well as our outreach and global outreach, local outreach. We believe Forest Park is doing a lot of great things, and that's why you choose to give. So thank you very much for your giving. And I'm just going to pray, and then our dream team members will pass baskets, and I'll tell you about how you can give online. So let me pray real quick. God, thank you that this church is being used in so many different ways, from people's stories that I hear to the outreach of people and the way that your message is reaching people in new and fascinating ways. God, that's what it's all about, is helping people find Jesus one step at a time. And you choose us, you choose the local church to do that. So thank you for giving us that gift and giving us a place that we can come and worship together. It's in your son's name that I pray. Amen. So again, Dream Team members are passing the baskets. Feel free to let it go by if you are brand new here and you have never given before. That's okay. You're not expected to give. But if you'd like to, we would really appreciate it. You can also give online by going to fplive.org/give, and there you'll find the ways to give using PushPay. It's a platform that helps us set up automated giving or regular giving online. So
fplive.org/give is the way you can do that. You can also text give to that number on screen. And that's how you can give online. So we're getting into the message now. Preston's going to bring another part in the series, Heroes and Villains, and heard it in the first service. I know that you're really going to enjoy it. So let's get into the message now.
Thankful that you're here. My name is Preston. I'm the youth pastor. I want to welcome you. If you're here in person or watching online, we're so grateful for your presence and your attendance and your time today. Man, I always love kind of when we switch season kits. If you don't know what that is, really, about every quarter we try to do a new bumper, we try to do new slides, new graphics. But one thing I've noticed, I didn't mention this first service, is no matter how much I do, I can never make the cut for the bumper video. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's I got to reach a certain level of hours or something. I got to have a certain outfit on. But man, my goal for 2024 is to make one of those bumper videos. But again, we're so grateful that you're here, and again, that you've chosen to be here as we continue in our series called Heroes and Villains. It's a series we started in March, and we kind of took a pause last week, obviously, for Easter to kind of do an Easter message, and today we're going to continue in this series as we look at characters in their Bible and their stories, and we begin to step back and say, what can we really learn from them? And really not only what did they do right, but what did they do wrong? And we learned, and we talked about this in week one, that none of us in the room, none of us watching online, we are never truly a hero, and we're never truly a villain. There's times where we do heroic things, and there's times we do things that are not so heroic. And all of us have the ability to follow God or to walk away from God. And today, I want to look at a character in the Bible that maybe you would be surprised that we would talk about. So I want to encourage you, if you do have your phone, if you do have the Bible app on your phone, to not only open it up, but hit the More tab, hit the Events tab, and then hit Forest Park Church. Because when you do that, you'll get my notes for the entire message today. As I know Scott does, and I do as well, we sometimes get clicker happy, and we'll go to a slide, and then we'll click through it too quick before you can write it down. So in order for you not to miss anything, you can always follow our notes every Sunday by opening the Bible app, going to Events, and clicking on our church. It's a way to make sure you don't miss anything. So again, as we jump into part 4 today, I really thought about who do I want to talk about? And what character? I mean, I could pick 100 different characters in the Bible and talk about their stories, talk about what they did, what they didn't do. But sometimes I want to take a step back and say, okay, where's somewhere we weren't expecting to go? Because it's easy sometimes to do the characters we know, but what about sometimes doing the characters we don't expect? And so today what I want to do is I want us to look at the life and the legacy of Judas. And I know that when I say that, when I talk about wanting to talk about the life and legacy of Judas, it's tempting for us to kind of shiver a little bit, right? When we think about Judas's life, when we think about his legacy and his name is spoken, we think about what he did. And as we just reflected on Easter Sunday, right? Easter doesn't really happen in part without Judas's story. The cross doesn't happen if he does not turn him in. And so his betrayal is a part of our story as much as the resurrection and the cross is as well. So what can we learn about Judas, good and bad? One of the things I know is if you went downtown today and you just interviewed people on the street and said, just tell me one villain in the Bible, almost everyone would say, hey, Judas is a villain. Because we know Judas, we know his story, we know the treachery that he did, we know the acts that he committed. And is someone easy to point out. But what do we really know about Judas outside of him just turning Jesus in for 30 pieces of silver? Most of what we read about his life and his legacy in the Gospels is very few and far between. And in fact, there's nothing written about his life before Jesus. Who was he? What did he do before he met Jesus? And so today what I want us to do, as weird as it may sound, is I want to show you really quickly at the top of the message today. I'm not going to spend the bulk of my time doing this. We'll talk about what we learned at the end. But what did Judas get right? What's some of the things he did that we can actually stop and say, wow, like that was the right decision to make? What is something he did that we can stop and say, what can I actually look to in Judas and say, that's what I should be doing? Is there a lot? No, obviously. But there is some. And so some of it may seem basic, but I want to take time today to make sure that we realize that Judas' story isn't all bad. In fact, if you read 99% of the verses about him, it's always his failures. He followed Jesus for 3 years, but the only thing we really read about him is the mistakes he made, which in some ways makes me sympathetic towards him, because imagine if someone took a video camera and recorded your life for 3 straight years, and out of everything they could write down about what they observed in 3 years of your life, they just chose to write down the negative, the mistakes, the failures that you made. I think all of us can admit if someone was writing down my life for 3 straight years, they would find plenty of things they can write down about the balls I dropped, the things I did wrong. And so what can we learn from Judas that is more worthy than we would rather admit? The first thing I want us to look at, and it seems basic, but there's something to this, is that Judas answered the call to follow Jesus. Judas was one of the 12. He was one of the 12 that was called by Jesus to follow him. And when you follow Jesus, there was this kind of understanding that you were going to have to leave behind a lot of things in your life. And while Judas' story when he was called by Jesus to follow him is not recorded in the Bible for us to read, we do know, based on Jesus calling other disciples, that when he called people to follow him, it was very risky. When we read in Mark chapter 1 about when Jesus came and called Peter and Andrew and James and John to follow him, this is what it says. Right away, Peter and Andrew left their nets and followed him. And then Jesus went a little further and he saw James and John in their boat repairing their nets. And at that very moment, he called them and he said, "Follow me." And they followed him, leaving their father with his workers. So even 4 of the 12 disciples right there, 1/3, you see, when Jesus said, "Follow me," they had to leave behind their work. They had to leave behind their income. They had to leave behind their assets, like their boats and their net. They even had to leave behind their families. James and John immediately left their father. And so this idea that following Jesus was just simple, like, oh, I'll go follow God. That's easy. Yeah, okay, Jesus, I'll go with you. It actually required Judas to leave his family, leave his work, leave his hometown, leave his comfortability in what he knew to follow a man he probably barely knew at the time. And so while it seems basic, again, while it seems elementary, the truth is Jesus in his 3 years ministry ministered to thousands of people. Jesus came into contact with thousands of people in his 3 years, whether he healed them, preached to them, called them out. He came into contact with thousands of people in 3 years, yet he only called 12. And out of the 12, Judas was one. And Judas's answer was, yes, I will follow you. I will leave behind everything I know to follow you and sit under your teaching. So at a basic level, we see that Judas did something right. He chose to follow Jesus. Now, his story along those 3 years is obviously a bumpy one, but at the beginning, he chose to sacrifice and follow what Jesus wanted for him. One of the other things we may not know about Judas, and if you're not careful, you'll kind of read over it, that we can learn and see is that Judas did miracles. Judas did perform miracles. And I think sometimes when I say Judas, and we think about Judas in the Bible, we think about this guy who's always sitting in the corner, kind of in the shadows lurking. And for 3 straight years, he's just kind of sitting there like a snake in the grass, biding his time, waiting for the perfect opportunity 3 years in to just stab Jesus in the back, metaphorically speaking. And we just see him as like, from the beginning, he was just waiting for his chance to turn him in. But actually, when you read the Gospels and you read the 3-year ministry of Jesus, you see that Judas was present for a lot of the miracles that Jesus performed. He was there for the feeding of the 5,000. He was there for raising of the dead of Lazarus. He was there for the healing of many people's sickness. And so we see in this big picture that Judas wasn't this guy who from the beginning was always just kind of biding his time, waiting for his opportunity to strike. He was a part of a lot of the great things that Jesus did in 3 years. And not only was he a part in being able to witness it, he was actually a part in doing it himself. In Matthew chapter 10, Jesus calls all 12 of his disciples together because he has a mission he wants to give his 12 disciples. And in Matthew 10, this is what it details. It says, Jesus called all of his disciples, all 12, and gave them all power over unclean spirits to throw out demons and to heal every disease and every sickness. And here are the names of his 12 disciples. And Matthew lists all of them. And at the end, he says, and Judas, who betrayed Jesus. Jesus intentionally gathers his disciples together and gives them power. He gives them authority to perform miracles, and one of the people he gives that power and authority to is Judas, the very man who would later betray him. A man who is classified by us today as this purely evil, villainous character in the Bible was given power intentionally by Jesus to do great things. We're talking about a man who was going to cast out demons, a man who was going to raise the dead, a man who was going to heal every disease in that time because Jesus gave him the authority to do so. And so maybe if we look at that, Judas was actually wanting to be a part of the mission. Maybe he actually wanted to be a part of seeing people healed, of seeing people redeemed, of seeing people freed from captivity. Maybe Judas actually wasn't just kind of sitting on the sidelines for 3 years. He was actually wanting to be a part of watching God do great things in and through him. And so, yes, it does seem elementary, but true. Yes, Judas did say yes to follow Jesus. And Judas did perform miracles. Granted, it was through the power of God, not his own power, but he did perform miracles. And the last thing I think we can look at in Judas's life and say this was actually admirable is that Judas stayed through many difficulties. Obviously not at the end, and we'll get to that at the end of my message. But he stayed through a lot. And Judas's story is not just a tragedy. It's also sometimes something to look at and say, wow, I don't know if I would have done the same thing. For 3 years, he followed Jesus. And let me say this, following Jesus was not a cakewalk. I know maybe today we think it's easy to follow Jesus because we're in a Christian country and no one really hates you if you're a Christian, and we sit AC buildings and we're comfortable. But in that time, following Jesus was not easy. His followers were mainly nomadic, meaning they had no home. They would set up camp and then gather their supplies, go into town, and hope and pray that someone would be generous to let them stay with them for the night for free. And then oftentimes they were kicked out of those towns and persecuted and beaten because of Jesus' controversial teachings. And then they would walk to the next town and they would camp in between their visits to different cities. And they were hated by a lot of people. As much as we know that they were loved by some, they were hated by many. Yet in those 3 years of always traveling, always setting up camp, barely having a real meal to eat because they didn't have a lot of money, Judas stayed through all of it. He didn't leave when things got difficult. He didn't leave when people started to hate Jesus. He didn't leave when he was beaten because of what Jesus taught or chased out of town. I'll put it in today's terms so we can understand. Following Jesus was not like this. The 12 disciples didn't drive Mercedes. They probably drove what Pastor Scott drives, a Prius. They didn't stay in 5-star hotels with free meals comped by the local synagogues. They weren't invited to speak at huge church conferences, given a platform to monetize their name and go on book tours. That's not their life. Their life was actually one of a lot of rejection, a lot of hurt, a lot of hunger, a lot of trying to even figure out how to get through the next day because they had almost nothing to eat, nothing to survive off of. And Judas was a part of this 3-year journey. It was not an easy journey. It was a journey that required a lot of sacrifice. And so when Jesus in Matthew 10 comes and says, hey, everybody come to me. I'm giving you power to perform miracles, and I'm going to send you on a mission. The next question is, then what's the mission going to look like? And Jesus says, here's your mission. I'm giving you power to perform miracles. Now here's what your mission looks like. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those with skin diseases, throw out demons. You received without having to pay, therefore pay or give without demanding payment. Workers deserve to be fed, so don't gather gold or silver or copper coins for your money belt to take on the trip. Don't take a backpack, don't take 2 shirts, don't take sandals, and don't take a walking stick. Right there, here's the logistics of the mission. You're going to go into towns, and you cannot take a change of clothes. You cannot take a backpack. I don't want you to bring any money with you. And when you perform miracles, do not ask for money in return. If people want to give you something like a place to sleep or a meal to eat, take it, but you will not demand to be paid for your services. Physically, that's a lot. Not only do I have to go, but I can't take a change of clothes. I can't wear shoes. I can't take a backpack. I can't even take money on my wallet, on my person. Like, this is a physically demanding journey and mission. It wasn't only physical, though. It was an emotional and spiritually demanding journey, because Jesus goes on to say, and when you go, know that I'm sending you as sheep among wolves. Watch out for people, because when you go to these towns, they will hand you over to councils and they will beat you. They will haul you in front of kings and governors and ask you to give an account of what you're doing. Everyone will hate you on account of me, but whoever stands firm until the end will be saved. Whenever they harass you in one city, escape to the next. Not only was it physically demanding, when they went to these cities to perform miracles, many people would hate them for it. When they went to these cities to heal the sick, many of the church leaders would beat them. When they went to these towns to do and perform and bring healing to those who are hurting, they would have to escape out the back alley because they were going to get thrown in prison. They would have to be brought in front of kings and give accounts of what they're doing unless they were to be put in jail or killed. Here's the mission. Don't take money. Don't take food. Don't take an extra change of clothes. Don't even wear shoes. And also, the good news is people are going to hate you and beat you and chase you out of town. What a great mission. We love the beginning. God, I have power to cast out demons. And then we find out the mission is actually like everyone's going to hate you and you can't even take a change of clothes. And we're like, that sounds a little difficult. But for what it's worth, and I only say this because Scripture doesn't give us any insight, I assume that for the most part, Judas went. Judas took the challenge. We don't hear any recording about Judas back talking Jesus and saying, let's do some negotiation here, dude. Like, can I just get 20? Like, can I just bring 20 with me? I'm not asking to bring a lot, but can I bring 20? Bro, I've got like bad feet. Can I just get like some kind of sandals? Rainbows, something? Bro, can I just go like for half the time and then come back early so I can get ready for the next one? For what it's worth, from what we see, Judas went. Judas didn't complain, and Judas didn't try to negotiate himself out of it, which, in some degree, is more than I think a lot of us, including myself, would be willing to do. Most of our mission today as New Testament church people is to tell people about Jesus, love them, and tell them the good news. Then, imagine if Jesus came and said, hey, sell everything you have. I don't want you to have a penny in your bank account. And also, I want you to walk over to Hertford, to Camden, to Currituck, to South Mills, and I want you to tell them about me. And guess what? When you go there, they're going to hate you and try to kill you for it. Will you go? A lot of us probably not. Yet Judas is the man that we villainize and make fun of and mock and say, I could never be like Judas. He was such a terrible person. But in this story, it sounds like Judas had more faith than a lot of us do at times, including myself. He was willing to be part of a mission that was not easy. It was not an easy mission. And his story, yes, is tragic, and we're going to get into that. But there is beauty within his story, very small slivers of beauty. But there's something to look at in Judas' life and say, man, that was admirable, what you chose to do. You may have not got it all right, but in that moment, that was something I can look to. But Judas' story is not a beautiful story, and you know that, I hope. Judas' legacy is not a legacy of what we teach our kids to be like. You don't teach your kid at bedtime, hey, I want you to be like Judas when you get older. He's not an example. He's not a figure we teach our kids about of what it means to be a Christian, and it's the opposite. I don't want you to be like this man. I want you to learn from his mistakes. So what can we learn from Judas other than the good? Well, luckily, there's plenty of bad to pull from. I'll give you 4 things I think that we can learn from Judas' mistakes. Number 1, what we learn from Judas' life is that giving some is not enough. And when I say that, I'm not talking about your money. I'm not talking about your time. I'm talking about your life. Judas wanted to give parts of his life to God, but not all of his life to God. He wanted Jesus to use his time. Jesus, I'll follow you for 3 years. I'll give you my time. He wanted Jesus to use his talents. Jesus, I'll go on the mission. Use me. I'll do some cool miracles and help people be healed. But he never really gave all of his life to Jesus. There were parts of his life that he kept to himself and he refused Jesus to change. He sat under Jesus' teaching and refused to allow it to impact and change parts of his world that were broken and ugly. One of the things you know about Judas, other than the fact that he betrayed Jesus, is the fact that he was an incredibly greedy person, filled with love of money. I mean, he turned in the Son of God for 30 pieces of silver, for goodness sake. But in a story in Luke chapter 12, there's a man who comes to Jesus, and he says, Jesus, I have an issue. I need your help. He said, my father has died, and my brother has taken all of the inheritance from my father, and he refuses to give me my 50%. What should I do? And in a moment like that, you would think Jesus would say, that's not just. That's not fair. You tell your brother that he needs to give to you what is yours. But instead of saying that, Jesus says something more interesting. He says, actually, here's what I say. Watch out. Guard yourself against all kinds of greed. After all, one's life is not determined by what you own, even if you're wealthy. Jesus understands something about humans, that is, we have a temptation to be greedy. Maybe not with money, maybe your time. Maybe you refuse to give your time, your talents, maybe your money. But Jesus knew that human nature is naturally greedy. We want what we want, and we want all of it, and we want more of it. We got this much, but I want more. Ever watched the Willy Wonka, Charlie and Chocolate Factory? I want more. We are greedy people, and he knew this about us, and that's why he says, watch out. Greed is dangerous. Your life is not about how much you can get. In fact, Jesus' mission was about how much you can give. And he knew this about Judas too. He taught about greed. He talked about becoming last instead of first. Yet Judas constantly lived a life that was all about how he could get more money and how he could get more power. That's why when John writes about Judas, he doesn't write very glowingly. He says Judas said this not because he cared about the poor people, but because he was a thief. He stole money from Jesus. There was a purse that he would carry, and any donations they got for the ministry would go in the purse, and Judas would steal out of it when no one was looking for himself. Not only was he a person who was willing to betray Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, he was a person who was willing to, over time, steal from Jesus. So this was a man who was greedy. And so is the temptation with us, that we not only want to follow God, but we don't want to follow God all the way. That's a temptation for all of us, myself included. We want to trust God with our finances. God, I'll trust you with my money. But when it comes to my marriage, I've got that under control. I don't need your help. I know how to handle this. God, I trust you with my health, but my kids, I know you should say I should do it this way, but I know how to raise them. They're my kids. I know what's best for them. God, I trust you with my retirement. Take it, use it for what you want, but my time, outside of this 1 hour on a Sunday, you're not getting an ounce of it. I'm going to use the time Monday through Saturday for what I want, not for what you want. And the hard truth for you and the hard truth for me today to swallow is that when it comes to Judas's life and legacy, we have to know this to be true. Partial obedience is not obedience. Telling God you will only follow him in certain areas of your life, but not all areas of your life, is refusing to allow God to be king of your life. He's king of your marriage, but not king of your checkbook. He's king of your time, but not king of your mental health. And Judas struggled to come to Jesus and say, everything I have, everything I am, take it, use it, transform it, change it, help me grow into what you want me to be. Simply coming to God and saying, you can have some of my life, God, but I want to keep this the way it is because I like it this way, is refusing to allow God to be king of your life. And when Jesus says, follow me, he is not asking you that you can give some of your life. He is saying, if you follow me, you must give it all. And if you're not willing to give it all, then don't give any. And Judas's life is an example of what it looks like when we refuse to allow God to transform and change every part of our life, not just some of it. And the second thing we learned from Judas is that God's timing is really better. Part of Judas's downfall is not only that he was greedy, it's that he was impatient. He was a person who joined the cause of Jesus because he believed that Jesus was coming to overthrow the government. Jesus came so that he could take Rome out of power and give the Jewish people our rightful place back, leading our land, leading our people. That is what a lot of the Jewish people think the Messiah is like. They want the Messiah to come and to throw the government out and put the Jewish people in power. And for 3 years, that's what Judas was expecting Jesus to do. And I can imagine in the beginning, I'm just thinking here, Judas in the beginning was like, Jesus, this ministry stuff is cool. I love the miracles. I love that you're getting a following. I love that people are kind of like rallying around you. I love that we're gaining traction. I think it's cool what you did for Lazarus. That stuff's cool. But as he kind of kept going and 2 years came and then the third year of the ministry came, I can kind of sense Judas getting a little frustrated and impatient. Like, Jesus, I like the ministry we were doing and the miracles we were doing in the beginning, but the clock's ticking. When are you going to actually do what you came here to do? When are you going to actually do something about Rome? When are you actually going to do something about the people persecuting and killing our people and taxing our people? And I would see Judas, I'm sure, metaphorically in his mind saying, like, he just wants to grab Jesus by the shoulder, shake him, and be like, can you hurry up? I've been waiting for 3 years now for you to make your move. When are you going to do it? But what Judas failed to know is that Jesus never came to do that. Jesus' mission was never about power and authority. It was about sacrifice and service and grace to all people. And just like Judas, you and myself can become impatient with God's timing. Judas's impatience is what led to Judas's frustration. And Judas's frustration is ultimately what led to Judas's disobedience. What I'm trying to get at is if you're not careful, your impatience will turn you against God because you will begin to have this attitude that, God, I prayed for it. It's supposed to happen now. It's this demand of God to say, you should be working on my schedule. You should be working according to my calendar. You should be working according to my timeline. I asked, I prayed, I sought, I knocked, and yet you have not done anything. And that's what leads to frustration. And that's what leads us to say, why should I even continue to follow God at all? I've prayed and he has not answered me. I've prayed and he hasn't done it yet. And that's why the psalmist writes in Psalm 27:14. It's a very simple verse, but it's powerful. He says, just wait for the Lord. Be strong. Let your heart take courage. Wait for God. Learn to wait. And not only wait, but realize that it's more about what he wants than what you want. And the more you come to God in prayer and demand that he works according to your calendar and your schedule, the more I promise you, you will leave defeated and disappointed with your faith. Because your faith is not about what you want. What if I told you literally everything you've been praying for in the last month, if you've even been praying for anything? If everything you've been praying for, what if I told you God's answer to those prayers is no? God, will you help me here? No. God, will you change my work situation? No. God, will you help do this differently in the community? No. If his answer to your prayers is no, will you wait? Will you trust? Will you follow? Will you worship in spite of the no? Judas didn't. And it's what's led him to take his life and Jesus' life into his own hands. The third thing we can learn about Jesus' life is that ultimately, worship is greater to God than progress. Not only was Judas impatient, he valued the wrong things. He saw the world through a material lens about how much he could gain, how much he could accumulate. And Jesus told his followers to shift their perspective, to look through the world in a different lens of what it means to serve, to become last, to value others more important than yourself. It's part of why God chose on the seventh day to rest when he created the world, because he knew that human beings would have a tendency to always pursue progress and not worship. And if they did not take time to stop and to worship and to rest, they would never learn the key to what it means to have a full, fulfilling life. We live in a country, we live in a culture where progress is everything. What you can accomplish, what you can get done is really the only thing that matters. Part of the reason America is so far along economically speaking is because we are a culture where as soon as we meet one goal, we immediately set another. As soon as we finish one project, we immediately put another one on our calendar. As soon as we achieve something, we have no time for celebration. It's time to do something else. Yet God's kingdom is vastly different. It's not about what you can do and what you can get done. It's about who are you worshiping, and are you making time for that? In Judas's mind, worship was a waste of time. That same mindset that we need to value progress over what it means to worship God has infiltrated not only our country and our society, it's infiltrated our church as well. Not just our church, churches across the country. We have a mindset in our ministries and in our cultures and our buildings that as soon as we do something great here at Forest Park, we should immediately be thinking about what to do next. I'll be taking my students to summer camp at Liberty this July, and it's 99% of the time the best week of our entire calendar year. It's like the highlight of the whole entire calendar. And without fail, when I drop them kids off on Friday, July 5th, after we're done, come Sunday, the question that will be asked of me is, what is next? What's next? What are we doing next? When are we going there? What are we doing here? What are we going to do for this? What's next? No time to pause, to worship, to celebrate. And in the church culture, we constantly ask what's next. Easter was great, but what about the summer? When are we going to add a third service? When are we going to add a new campus? When are we going to get out of debt? When the heck are we going to fix the projectors for the final time? You know, when are we going to go back to Ecuador? When are we going to do this? When are we going to make this happen? And man, I just want to tell you at Forest Park, especially over the last 4 years since the pandemic, we have learned as a staff that we are not going to be a church that's constantly fixated on progress and what's next. We want to be a place where people come in and realize that our value here is learning to pause, slow down, and worship. Regardless of how we grow, how big the budget gets or doesn't get, how many butts are in the seat, doesn't matter. Are we learning to worship? And that's why when we talk about Judas's life and how he saw worship, we talk negatively about it. In John's gospel, we talked about this story last week for Easter, so this is kind of just a repeat, but listen. Mary came to Jesus, and she had a pound of expensive perfume, and she anointed Jesus' feet with the perfume via her hair. And she wiped his feet with her hair in this expensive perfume. And Judas looked at Mary in that moment and said, why was this perfume not sold for money that we could have given to the poor? And right after that verse is when John said he doesn't care about the poor. He was actually stealing from Jesus. So in this story where Mary is worshiping God by pouring out a year's worth of wages on this one bottle of perfume and pouring it all out on Jesus' feet, Judas looks at it and says, what a waste. In fact, Mark, which we read last Sunday, Mark's account of this very same story I like better because it's a little bit more plain. He says, there were some, I put Judas in parentheses because we know he was talking about Judas. There were some who grew angry at this and said to each other, why was the perfume wasted like that? And I think sometimes, whether we know it or not, that's kind of how we see some of what we choose to do in our life. I want to tell you some really good news. You may not think it's good, but it's something I want you to take to heart because it can set you free this morning. You are not wasting your life by choosing to slow down. You're not wasting your life by choosing to follow God instead of trying to get more money. You're not wasting your life by learning to give your money away instead of hoarding it up to be the biggest and baddest person in Elizabeth City. You aren't wasting your time by coming 2 hours and learning what it means to serve instead of get. Because really, what is your life? James makes it clear. Your life is like a mist. It's here today, and then it vanishes. I know your life is long to some of us who have lived longer. You've lived 60, 70, 80 years, some of you. You've lived through a lot. A lot of pain, a lot of heartache, and it feels like at times that pain and heartache will never end. But I want to tell you, in the grand scheme of life, in the grand scheme of eternity, your life is nothing more than a blimp on the radar. It's here and it's gone. And I want to challenge and encourage you to see your life as valuable, that your time is valuable, and what you choose to prioritize is ultimately the legacy you will leave when you're gone. Will you be a person who's remembered for not always chasing the next big project, the next big paycheck, the next big thing, but will you be remembered as someone who would say they didn't have the most money, they weren't the most famous, but man, they loved God, and man, they tried their best to help other people know him. Ultimately, Judas didn't. Worship was unnecessary. It was a part of life he saw as a waste because he knew that progress in his mind was more important. But in God's kingdom, worship is the only thing that's important. The last thing we can learn about Judas today is knowing about Jesus is not enough. Ultimately, Judas's life boils down to this truth. He knew a lot about Jesus, but he did not know Jesus. He knew who Jesus was. He knew what Jesus was doing to some degree, but he never knew Jesus personally. He never allowed Jesus to become anything more than a nice, good teacher who said some really cool things from time to time, and he challenged the religious people. And I want to tell you, man, if Jesus is never more to you than someone that you think was a nice, moral man, was a man who taught on some really cool concepts that I can take and post on my Instagram story, if he's never more to you than just a nice, good man who taught some really nice, good principles to live my life morally by, you will never find true peace, true freedom, and true life by knowing about Jesus that way. It's only those of us who know Jesus personally that truly live a life full of joy, freedom, and peace. And in fact, I want you to see this because Judas was the only one of the 12 who did not believe Jesus was anything more than a teacher. Everyone else knew him as God. They knew what Jesus was. He was God in the flesh. At the Last Supper, Jesus invites his 12 disciples to come eat. And he tells them, one of you tonight is going to betray me. And I want you to see how every disciple responded to that claim that one of them would betray Jesus. That evening, Jesus took his place at the table with his 12 disciples. As they were eating, he said to all of them, I'm telling you right now, one of you is going to betray me. Deeply saddened, every one of the 11, except for Judas, looked at him and said, I'm not the one, am I, Lord? Judas was the only one in that moment that looked at Jesus and said, it's not me, is it, teacher? I want you to see that clear distinction. Every disciple except Judas called him Lord because they knew he was not just a teacher. He taught things, but he was not a teacher. He was God. It was only the one who would betray him that refused to acknowledge who he truly was. To Judas, he was nothing except a good teacher who did good things. And if Jesus is only a good moral example for your life, it will not last. And I'm here to tell you today, man, if Jesus was nothing more than a good teacher, I am wasting my time even being up here right now. Jesus as a good teacher is not worth us coming to celebrate and worship. Jesus as a good teacher and a moral man was not willing for us to sacrifice our money and our time to tell people about him. It's only when Jesus is really believed to be more than a teacher, God in the flesh who died for us, that we are willing to sacrifice and live and go in his name. And whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, I don't care who you are, I don't care what you believe today. But here's the truth for every human being in this world. Either here in your lifetime or after you breathe your last breath, every single one of us has to answer one question. And that question is, who is Jesus to you? Who is he to you? Not who was he to your parents, not who he is to your pastor. Who is he to you? And the thing I know about Judas, as bad as it was, he betrayed Jesus for mere 30 pieces of silver. And his story ends tragically because he had no hope and no redemption. This is my opinion. You can disagree, and that's okay. I truly believe if Judas believed that Jesus was more than just the man, that he was God, when he betrayed him, he would have came back to Jesus asked for forgiveness, and God would have forgiven him. I truly believe forgiveness was an arm's length away from Judas if he asked for it. Why do you say that? 2 reasons. 1, there's no Bible verse that tells us betraying a brother is an unforgivable sin. Number 2, we look at the response that Jesus had to the Apostle Peter. When Judas betrayed Jesus, his story ends very sad. This is what happened. Judas betrayed Jesus, saw that he was condemned to die, and he felt deep regret. He returned the 30 pieces of silver to the elders and the chief priests, and he said, I did wrong because I betrayed an innocent man. Again, Jesus was nothing more than just an innocent man. What happened? Jesus threw the pieces of silver into the temple and left, and then he went and hung himself. He had no hope. He had no future because he didn't believe that Jesus was more than just a teacher. If he would have believed that Jesus was more than a teacher, that he was God himself, he may have had the same story that we see from the Apostle Peter. Peter also betrayed Jesus. He didn't turn him in, but he certainly turned his back on him. In his darkest days, he denied him 3 times to save his own life. He betrayed Jesus by denying him 3 times. And when Jesus came back from the grave, he went back to his disciples and he went to Peter and he said, Peter, do you love me? Peter said, yes, Lord, I love you. He goes to him a second time, Peter, do you love me? And he says, yes, Lord, I love you. And then Jesus asked him a third time, Peter, do you love me? And Peter gets really sad at this point. He says, Jesus, you know everything. You know I love you. And because of that love for Jesus, because of his willingness to repent and know that he did wrong and to ask Jesus to forgive him, here's how his story ends. Jesus looks at him and says, okay, then follow me. Forgiveness was granted to the one who turned his back on him because he knew that Jesus was more than just a teacher. He knew that Jesus was God, and because he knew that Jesus was God, he knew that all he had to do was ask for forgiveness and it would be given to him, and it was. Jesus said, okay, let's start over then. Let's go back to the beginning. Fresh slate. Follow me. A simple command that was given at the beginning is now given at the end. Peter receives forgiveness and redemption and restoration because he repents and asks for it. Judas had no hope. And his hopelessness, because he refused to acknowledge who Jesus was what led him to take his own life instead of seek forgiveness. Here's the truth. Judas' greatest lesson for us is just because you're close to Jesus does not mean you know Jesus. Just because you got perfect attendance and can sit in a seat 1 hour a week for 52 weeks a year does not mean you know Jesus. Just because you go to Bible study and open the Bible and pray does not mean you know Jesus. Just because you're a part of a group or you're a part of a serving team here and you give does not mean you know Jesus. He walked with him for 3 years, closer than any of us ever have, and yet he did not know who he was. It's only those of us who know Jesus that know and can receive a new hope, a new life, and a new future. Maybe you're here today and you wonder why you constantly find yourself frustrated with God and frustrated with your life and frustrated because you can't seem to get any peace or any joy or any freedom, no matter how much you come to church, no matter how much you pray. Have you ever stopped to consider maybe you just know a lot of cool things about Jesus, but you really never truly got to know him as your Lord, as your King? Because those of us who know him as King doesn't mean we don't struggle, but we know that there's a greater hope for us than this world. And that's the hope that we hold on to as Christians. Let me pray, then we'll take communion together. Father, thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you for the life and the legacy of Judas, as sad as it is, as depressing as it can be. God, we can learn a lot. We can learn a lot from what he did well, but also learn a lot from what he did wrong. And while his end of his story is tragic and depressing, God, we know that that doesn't have to be the end of our story. Our story can have redemption. Our story can have hope. Our future can be bright when we choose to know you personally. God, I pray for everyone here. I pray for everyone watching at home that may be hurting, may be depressed, may feel like they have nothing left to give and they are at the end of themselves. I pray that in these moments where they feel like they have nothing left to give, they would do the only thing that can truly give them life. Turn to you and ask for forgiveness and follow you. It's only when we know you that we can have life. God, we're so thankful for that. We're so thankful you don't give up on us. I'm so thankful that even when I turn my back on you, you don't let me turn my back on you. You force me back into your house, and you love me even when I don't deserve it, God. I've never deserved it. I never will. But you have been good to me when I have failed to be good to you. And that could have been Judas's story. If only. May that not be our story. Pray in your name. Amen. Hey guys, before we close together, we always take the first Sunday of every month to take communion as a faith family. We do this for a couple reasons. We want to remember all the good things that Jesus has done. And at his Last Supper, he tells his disciples, do this in remembrance of me. And then Paul in 1 Corinthians tells us that as often as you get together, do this in remembrance of me. So what we're going to do is, as soon as this video plays in just a second, as the video is playing, use that as your opportunity to get up, go to one of the tables in the back, take a piece of bread, take a cup, come sit back down, and then I'll lead us through the elements. That should only take a couple of minutes. If you do not want to participate, cool, no pressure. We don't love you less. God doesn't love you less if you don't want to take communion. In fact, if you feel like someone's judging you because you don't get up, point them out. I'll have Camilla throw them out of the service for you. No big deal. Just joking, of course. Look, there's no judgment here. We're a faith family. This is an opportunity to celebrate together. If you don't want to, just remain in your seat. So this video is going to play. As it plays, you can get up and go to the back and get your communion elements. There we go. When I think about communion, I think about obviously we're called to remember. Do this in remembrance of me. I liken it a lot of times to a wedding anniversary. If you're married in the room, me and Carla, we celebrate 6 years but this June 2nd. June 2nd is our wedding anniversary. And when we stop to celebrate each June 2nd, what we're not doing is choosing to stop and celebrate and remember how pretty the dress was. We're not stopping to celebrate and remember how great the cake was. We're not stopping to celebrate and remember how crazy those people danced on the floor that night. That was so funny. We're not stopping to celebrate and remember those things. We're stopping to celebrate and remember every June 2nd that for another year, we kept our promise. We have been faithful and we have loved each other. And when we are called as Christians to stop and take the bread and take the cup and remember, we are called to stop and remember that even 2,000 years later, with a bunch of broken misfits like you and me, God's promises still hold true. He has not left us. He has not forsaken us. The power that comes through his sacrifice on the cross and his blood still has the power to transform souls. And when we stop to take these elements, it's a remembrance that even today, no matter where I'm at, no matter how far off course I may feel like I am in this faith thing, God's promises are still true for you. His love for you has not changed. His faithfulness to you has not disappeared. He is still faithful. Let's pray. I'll take the bread together. Father, thank you for this bread. Thank you that it represents the body that was given for us. God, your life was not taken from you. You laid your life down. You gave it up willingly because you love us. Because your care as a father for his children is so amazing. And God, as we stop to take this bread, I pray that we would remember how it was broken, how it was battered, how it was beaten, and how ultimately that should have been us. But because of your love for us, it wasn't. And we celebrate that your promise is still good today. Pray in your name. Amen. If you take the bread together. You take the cup. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much that this cup represents your blood that was spilled for us. Not only were you beaten and battered and broken, God, but your blood spilled on that cross. It came from your hands, from your sides, from your feet, and you poured it out. As much as life changes, as much as we grow, God, one thing remains the same. Your blood is the power to give us life. And it's only through your blood that we can receive the life that we read about, the hope that we read about, the future that we're guaranteed. We're grateful that the blood of Christ still changes lives. God, as much as we may be dealing with, we can hope and know and trust that your promise that you will never leave us, never forsake us, doesn't change based on how well we perform or how well we do, but is rooted in what you did for us because you are a good, good Father. We're so grateful for that. We praise you for that in your name. Amen. Take the cup. A couple announcements and we'll let you go. Number one, if you're new here, we'd love to connect with you. We can go to fplive.org/connect and fill out a Connect card on your phone. If you want to, you can do a physical copy. It's in the seat back in front of you. You can fill it out physically or virtually, whether you do it either way, doesn't matter. If you take it and drop it off at the New Hair area, we have a gift for you just to say thanks for coming. New Hair area is also a place you can get answers to your questions. So if you have questions about who we are, what we do, that's the place to go. If you don't have time because you have children and can venture, you can drop off your New Hair card on the black table in the corner down the hallway, and you can pick up your gift there for free as well. Either way, we'd love to connect with you. And last but not least, the last thing to know is that next this night, that's our youth program that meets on Sunday nights. I have the privilege of leading that for our 6th through 12th graders. So if you're a 6th through 12th grader or you have one, we would love them to join us tonight at 5 o'clock for our next night. We feed them good food, we play games, we teach them about Jesus. So if you have a student, we'd love for them to join us tonight at Forest Park Church at 5 p.m. Last but not least, guys, if you can do Lisa Meads a favor, please take your cup and throw it in the trash can on your way out today. Love you guys. Have a great day.